Eruvin Daf Lamed Beis. Today's email comes to us from Hi Rebelli. It's Benny Gittleson from Manchester. I love the live demonstration today. Please, can you do it every day? I'm Baruch Hashem still doing the daf every day with you. I really enjoyed the Simon Shabbos, etc., etc. My days are feeling much better after doing the daf with you every day. Have a wonderful day, Benny Gittleson. Thank you, Benny. You should have a tremendous amount of atzlacha. We're continuing the sugya of Chazaka Shliach Oisei Shlichusai. Finished yesterday. If you give your Eruv to a monkey, and the monkey brings it to a Shliach, and the Shliach takes it, we could assume the Shliach did his job. According to everybody, if we're dealing with the Derabanan like an Eruv, you could assume that the Shliach did his job. Worse comes to worse, if he didn't do his job, then the person that sent the Shliach will be over on the Derabanan. But when it comes to the Iraisa, there's machlekes. Rav Nachman says we don't say this concept of Shliach Oisei Shlichusai, and Rav Sheshes says we still say Shliach Oisei Shlichusai. Rav Sheshes brings three proofs, and Rav Nachman disproves all three of them. The first proof that Rav Sheshes brings from a Mishnah Menachos that says we know that you cannot eat the new grain until you bring a Minchas Omer on the second day of Pesach. What if you live far away from the Beis Hamikdash? You have no idea if they brought the Minchas Omer or not. Can you eat from the new grain? The answer is, says the Mishnah, after Chatzos you permitted, we can assume they did their job. You see, Shliach Oisei Shlichusai. Says Rav Nachman, that's because it's a Bezdin, as it says over there, and Bezdin is different. We can rely on a Bezdin, but over here we're trying to rely on an individual. We don't rely on an individual when it comes to the Oiraisa. Some say the exact opposite. It's so strong, Rav Nachman's answer, that it's a proof for Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman says, you see, only in this case, it mentions over there that it's a Bezdin because that's why we rely on them, but we wouldn't rely on an individual. Says Rav Sheshes, you're right. The reason why the Bezdin is mentioned over there is because we're relying on them, that they did their job by midday, by Chatzos. But maybe an individual will procrastinate a little bit. Therefore, we can rely on an individual if he has up until the night. In that Mishnah, he only had till midday. Says Rav Sheshes, let me try again. He brings a raya from a woman who gives birth, or a zava. They have to be toivel, they have to bring a carbon. What they do is, for the bird carbon, they take money and put it inside a shofar-looking tzedakah box in the Beis Hamikdash. It's narrow on the top, it's wide on the bottom, actually curves, so it's difficult to take money out of the pushka. And the woman goes home, she's toivel, she could eat kachim. Now if you eat kachim without the carbon, you chayav kares. But she could assume that the kohen did his job. So you see, says Rav Sheshes, Chazaka Shliach Oisei Shlichusai. Says Rav Nachman, once again over there, we're talking about the Bezdin. Make sure that the kohanim don't go home until they're makrib all the korbanos that are inside the pushka. Says Rav Sheshes, a third proof. If an Am Haaretz tells a Talmud Chacham, a Chaver, go to my tree, take as many figs as you want. Since he has no idea how many figs the Talmud Chacham is going to be taking, the Talmud Chacham can eat one or two figs, a temporary kind of eating that's not a Su'uda, without taking Meiser. But if he's going to create a Su'uda out of it, he has to take Meiser Vadai. He's certain that the Am Haaretz didn't take any Trumas Meisers. Why? Because the Am Haaretz has no idea how much the Talmud Chacham will be taking. So even if he wanted to take Meiser, he wouldn't be able to. If the Am Haaretz tells the Talmud Chacham, take this amount of figs, here, fill up this basket. So now he knows how much he's taking, and the Talmud Chacham wants to make a full su'ud out of it, so the Talmud Chacham should take Meiser Demai, meaning he takes Meiser Misafik. It's very possible that the Am Haaretz, who owns the tree, took Meiser. So you should take Meiser Misafik. What's the difference between Meiser Misafik and Meiser Vadai? Explains Rashi that on the portion that you give to the poor person and to the Levi, the Meiser that you give to the Levi and Meiser Ani, that goes to himself. Because Yisrael can eat Meiser. The only problem is maybe you should go to the Levi, but the Truma party cannot eat. Now, what if it's the reverse? The Talmud Chacham, the Chaver, owns the tree and he wants to give to the Am Haaretz. According to Rebbe, we can be certain that the owner of the tree gave Meiser. Why? Because even though there's a slight Isser here, that a Talmud Chacham typically doesn't take Trums and Meisers when it's not Min Amukov, when it's not in front of him inside the same vessel. But over here, since the Talmud Chacham knows that we're dealing with Am Haaretz, he doesn't want the Am Haaretz to be over a very big Isser. So we could assume so. Rav Shimon Gamliel, who was Rebbe's father, says not true. Talmud Chacham won't do even a small Isser in order to save an Am Haaretz from a very big Isser. But the bottom line is, they just argued whether Talmud Chacham would do so or not do so. But you could assume that if the Talmud Chacham would be permitted to do so, everybody agrees that the Talmud Chacham would take Meiser for the Am Haaretz, meaning Shliach Oisei Shlichusai. Says Rav Nachman, you're right. We could assume so, but not because of chazaka shlichus shlichusa. The reason is because chazaka, a different chazaka, that Talmid Chacham doesn't allow things to come out of his hand where they are not fixed and properly meiser removed, etc., that you could eat. Now, what we said before, that according to Rebbe, the Talmid Chacham rather be over a small Isser Kal, in order to save the Amaris from a larger Isser. And Rabbi Shimon Gamliel argues, therefore, if a Talmid Chacham told the Amaretz, take my figs, and a third Talmid Chacham, in other words, a second Talmid Chacham, but a third person, overheard the conversation, and he wants to have some figs from the Amaretz, the middle guy, so according to Rebbe, the last guy, the third guy, doesn't have to take Trumas and Meisers because he could understand that the first chaver that owns the tree already separated the Trumas and Meisers. According to Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, he must take Meiser Vada because the Talmid Chacham will never give Meiser when it's not in front of him. Says the brand new Mishnah, if a person takes his Eruv and puts it on top of a tree, well, it depends. If he puts it 10 tefachim above the ground, it's not an Eruv. And he puts it below 10 tefachim, then it's an Eruv. Rav Nachman and Shmuel explain, and they actually love the pshat so much that they added it to the Gemara that they used to learn about Peh. This is the pshat. We're dealing with a tree that's 4 by 4 tefachim wide at least, and 10 tefachim high, so that creates a Rishus HaYachid. The person making the Eruv, he takes up residence on the Rishus HaRabim below. And the Eruv is above 10 tefachim. So he's in the Rishus HaRabim, the Eruv is in the Rishus HaYachid. And therefore, it's not a good Eruv, because since Ben HaShmashos, he cannot take the Eruv off the tree because the Eruv is Rishus HaYachid, and he cannot carry from a Rishus HaYachid into Rishus HaRabim where he's standing. Now, it's not possible to say that the tree is situated in a Rishus HaYachid, because the Rishus HaYachid goes all the way up to Shemayim. So there would be no difference whether the Eruv is above 10 Tvachim or below 10 Tvachim. It's all one Rishus HaYachid, and it's in a different property. Now, in the case that we're talking about, that the tree is in Rishus HaRabim, and he puts the Eruv below 10 Tvachim, that's a good Eruv. Why? Because the only problem is that you're not allowed to use a tree on Shabbos. And we're talking about Ben HaShmashos. But Ben HaShmashos, you're permitted to do a malacha that's only Asam D'Rabbanan. To use a tree on Shabbos is an Issa D'Rabbanan. And therefore, it's a perfect Eruv. Have a wonderful day.